before we reached out to Matt and Rebecca, we were in dire straits, really, weren't we?
It was, yeah, last resort.
Yeah, we had separated after years of a build-up to a huge argument. Chris didn't trust me. I was at a complete breaking point with anxiety over worry of him shouting or screaming in front of me again.
I basically built up an infatuation inside of my head where I thought that Jen was up to something. That
I've gained my partner back. I've gained my man of the relationship back. I have gained a sense of sanity back. I've gained my health back. I have gained responsibility back.
The ability to plan, look forward, instead of just being stuck.
I genuinely didn't think that even the counselling was going to work. I genuinely had given up. I'd given up on our relationship. I'd given up on my love, I think. And now I've rediscovered my love. I've fallen back in love with the man that I met 3.5 years ago. Well,
long time ago. 15
years ago. I just think everything is so hard to pinpoint. Yeah. I feel like for the first time in a year and a half, 2 years, we've got the world at our feet.
It's like there's no wall anymore.
Yeah, there isn't anything that we can't achieve when we're not together as a team. We always said that before we had any troubles in the relationship, that if we ever set up a business, we would
be untouchable.
Yeah, we'd rule the world. And I'm looking forward to that. Assess what you're going to lose if you don't make that decision, if you don't make an active change and a positive step towards being happy. The biggest learning for me was understanding how much my childhood had made me want to take on the world, and how much that was affecting our relationship and a lot of other relationships in my life, actually. And so I learned to soften. I learned to let Chris make some decisions. I learned to get off the sofa and get myself a drink. I learned, and actually I've taken that into my work with my new boss, who can be quite difficult. I've learned to soften and to let it wash over me and not sweat the small stuff. Communication normally when Chris would...
It would be me. The communication was my problem, I think, with that, because I would bottle and bottle and bottle and bottle till the cork would have to fly out.
Yeah.
And then instead of...
Communication was
shouting. Instead of dealing with what I was bottling there and then in a calm manner, all the calm manners stored up in this bottle and turned into a shout, which started the communication and ended it quite quickly. As where now a problem appears, we take it on, hit it, talk about it, deal with it, throw it away.
Working with Matt and Rebecca involved laying it out on the table, come in with an open mind, and being completely honest about how I felt, being completely open to learn about Chris and about different aspects on how he may approach something to how I may approach something. I guess being open to understand other people's opinions, and to also be open to receive criticism about, things I may need to work on. Because when we started this journey, in my mind, it was Chris that had the problem, but actually I established that there were some things I needed to address.
So yeah, the situation goes back a few years now when it comes to me and Jen. Built up an infatuation and thoughts in my head of things that weren't actually happening, which then started to affect me in the bigger world outside of just our relationship. So it all came to a blow, and Jen got the brunt of that, and we ended up separating. After separation, first thing we both did was to look at seeking help. We realised that we had more than we realised, and reached out to Matt and Rebecca. And over the last 3 to 4 months, we're back to where we are now. The best thing for me, now that we've rekindled what we have, is that I've got my family back around me, my dogs and my best friend. Making plans as much as we can at the minute in this time. Family time, watching the kids grow up together, walking the dogs, the next chapter, the chapter after that. I felt like I was trapped inside the smallest marble you can imagine, that tiny. And you see the world in a small magnifying little marble. But now I feel like I'm playing with that marble. Looking down at that, rediscovered myself and realised that to be able to love someone else, you have to love yourself first. And that was the biggest thing for me. So yeah, started to love myself, and now all of a sudden I've got everything that I love around me again. My biggest insight is awareness, by no shadow of a doubt. It's actually knowing what can go on inside your mind, and being aware of what it is, and that you can control that to a degree, and you're in charge of what you want to be in charge of. So working with Matt and Rebecca involved digging deep personally inside my emotions, my feelings, my thoughts, how I'd been leading my life over the last 5 to 10 years, especially the last 3. And it made me uncover some things that made me feel difficult, embarrassed, and not very proud of. So there was a conscious change there, which involved addressing what the problem was, addressing that it can be changed, and making the change. The key to that is being aware of what your mind is capable of and how you can change and train your mind to be what you want to be. That is what Matt and Rebecca have helped me personally do to become the person that I needed to be for me and Jen.
Seeing us go through this journey has made a friend of mine realise how unhappy she is in her marriage. And she's married to a very difficult man who I also know and have been friends with longer than her. He's a farmer, and he's just very narcissistic, very stuck in his ways.
Old school. Very
old-fashioned in his views on what a woman should do. And she's a free spirit, and it's killing her, and it's horrible to watch. But she's decided she is going to leave him. She's agreed to a month's trial of him trying to work on himself, but he refuses to see anybody. And this is the problem. He won't work on himself, and therefore the relationship's doomed. And it's so sad. Yeah, there is another one of our friends who broke up around the same time as me and Chris, actually, and have not really shown any signs of getting back together. And then it was a bit of a surprise last week when my friend came around and said they started talking again. However, they will need help if they're going to make that survive. And again, she knows the journey we've been on. So she's trying to persuade the guy in the relationship, who's a very macho man.
I've sent him a message and told him that it will help and what it would do.
Yeah. So she's trying to persuade him to see you guys, or to get in contact. You know, both the guys in those relationships are not willing to take the big step that Chris did, and that actually, in an awful selfish way, made me see how lucky I am to have Chris want to work on himself, you know, to better our relationship, to save our relationship, when you've got these two guys who've got amazing women, you know, at their fingertips, and not willing to do anything about saving them. So
say, get off the fence. Get off the fence. It's dangerous up there. Put your feet on the floor and make some decisions, stick to them and move forward.